Good morning, everybody, and welcome. Thank you for being here, and let's give the mayor another round of applause.
Thank
you so much
Thank
for being
you.
with us this morning. I know you have a busy schedule, but we appreciate you being here. So, lots to talk about.
Indeed.
There's a lot of excitement going on in the district, and we're so happy about that. But there have been some challenges, too, and with challenges come opportunities, so we're excited to talk about those opportunities that are ahead of us. So despite facing some unnecessary cuts caused by Congress recently, you were still able to put forth a budget that was very focused on growth and development for the district. Can you share with us some of the pillars of that growth strategy?
Sure. Well, first of all, let me say thank you and good morning. I know that there already been some robust conversation about the district, about interest in the district, why it makes sense to invest in the district. And I'm here to say attaboy and girl, and let's keep that conversation going. I'm joined by members of my DMPED team who are here, led by Deputy Mayor Nina Albert and other members of my staff. And we are focused, like you, every single day on how to make D.C. and continue to make D.C. a great place to invest. So we were just with a group of community members talking about 2024. In 2024, we saw our comeback strategies working. We, in 2024, were the fastest growing jurisdiction, city or state in America. We were the fastest growing. In 2024, we saw our tourism rebound from pre-pandemic tourism numbers. In 2024, we saw the lowest levels of crime in Washington, D.C., violent crime, in 30 years. We saw our school district improve. We saw our park system named #1 for the 5th year in a row. And we saw our financials, despite the headwinds we faced caused by remote work, were also very strong. And we thought we had the promise post-November that everybody would be going back to work. So we came into January thinking that, that would continue, and post-January 20, we didn't see everybody come back to work because we saw a lot of jobs impacted over the last 3 months. So now our challenge is to keep up the momentum that we gained in 2020, but shift with what is changing in the federal space, and that's our job. And it also, as you note, while we had to look at the next 4 years in our own budget and right-size it by over $1 billion, it did give us the opportunity to look very, very closely at programs that we like but may not be adding to our bottom line. We looked at services that are good, but if they don't add a new business, a new resident, a new taxpayer, then they're just not things that we could advance to the council this year. So we did 2 things. We had to fix the congressional problem, but I won't talk about that right now. And we had to send our 26 financial plan, which is a 4-year plan, that right-sizes the budget. That means it cuts $1.1 billion over 4 years, but also invest in our growth. And not just the growth that we were talking about a year ago or 2 years ago, but that addresses a shifting economy. So in this growth agenda, the #1 kind of pillar is how can we make it easier to do business here? And how can we attract more businesses here? So we are taking on some things that have been long discussed by you and us. And we know that we have to advance these changes, even having the politically tough conversations. So the #1 is TOPA reform in the district. We're unique in a lot of ways in the district, and one of them is TOPA. And we wanted to advance a plan that both gives and ensures that people, tenants, renters who want the opportunity to purchase their affordable housing unit or building are able to take advantage of TOPA. But we don't want TOPA to continue to be used to hold up investment, transactions, or attracting more investment in housing in the district. And so that's why the reform that we're advancing to the council, we have advanced to the council, would exempt market rate buildings. And so we think that's a good way to unlock investment, interest, and continue to make DC a place where capital wants to come to help us build housing. We think the DC story around housing is a good one. It's a national example. Over the last 10 years that I've been mayor, I've made the government's partnership with the private sector in building affordable housing a top tenet of my tenure. And as a result, we've invested over $1.5 billion, the city, in affordable housing in our Housing Production Trust Fund. That's on top of all of our other tools at the Housing Authority and for first-time home buyers and other things. And we've done that by consistently budgeting for partnership. But we also are very concerned that post-pandemic policies put those units and that investment at risk. And that's why we're moving the Rental Act with this bill as well, which tries to address the landlord-tenant relationship that has been upended by COVID-related or COVID era policy, so we can continue to do that. There are other things about reducing red tape, making our development process more predictable, focusing on our tax policies. There are no new taxes in this budget. In fact, we reduced the payroll tax. We look at this parking cash out program and we move to eliminate that. And we also focus on, while we are very supportive of making sure we have a climate-ready DC, we want to work with industry, and we want to work with all of you to make sure that our policies are competitive in the region. So there's some things that are paused here, adjusted, related to what we call BEPS, or I don't even know what that stands for now. Building energy performance is paused in this plan, as well as some of the net zero requirements are paused. So we really listened. We want to work with everybody to send the clear message that we're open for business, we want to do business, and we're going to make it easy to do business in the district.
Yeah, that's all great. And the pause on BEPS is very consistent with what's going on nationally as well. Yeah. So one of the things you touched upon is the public-private partnership. And there's one big thing happening that's being talked about. It's bringing the commanders back to DC, back to RFK, right?
Yes, that's a good thing.
Yeah, it's a big one. So we know that conversation has been going on for a long time, probably 10 years or so in the making. Can you share with us, what finally got to the deal? How did you manage to broker that?
Well, yeah, it's a very big deal. And it is also a very big part of our growth agenda. These things all hang together. And how did we finally do it? Persistence, never giving up, and always fighting for what we knew was right for DC. The first thing we had to do was get control of the land. 180 acres has been, the National Park Service has basically been the owner or the keeper of that land. We have a lease, and the stadium, RFK Stadium, hasn't been used, I don't know now, for maybe 15 years. So it has served its purpose. It served its purpose well. And now it's time to bring it back to life. In a city that is compact like ours, we need every acre to be productively used in generating revenue for all 8 wards of the city. So at the end of December last year, after many strategies started in pursued, we got it through the Congress. And on the beginning of the January, the president signed it and transferred the control of the land to the district. We have actually been working in earnest with the team since last June with the hopes that we would get the land and have a head start on a vision for the site. And I think we have a great vision. I've always said that I wouldn't support a project that was only a stadium, but in that 180 acres, we have identified several districts, including one that's focused on residential, one that's focused on on recreation, one on art, on entertainment, and that's kind of where the happening place where all the restaurants and everything will be, and one that's on the riverfront that could be a mix of uses. This site is also special because at least 30% of it has to be park space. So we're kind of stepping in the shoes of the National Park Service in that way to maintain and increase access to the Anacostia. So I think how we got there, as I already mentioned, was not giving up, but we also now have a great partner, and it is the right time. And Josh Harris and team they're the right partnership. And after a few meetings with Josh, I knew we would get to a deal. Yeah. I knew we would, and he wants to be there. It is the best site in the region. Like, everybody knows that. It's the best site.
A lot of momentum around the team right now.
It's a lot of momentum, and we want to deliver this for the district. So right now, the council has our deal. They need to approve it and do it quickly so the team can get some planning and a shovel in the ground. I read that they're having early talks with some architecture and planning firms, so that's good. That's good for business, right? $2.7 billion private investment on the banks of the Anacostia.
Wonderful. That's great. And sports has been a part of your economic plan. You were very successful in keeping the Wizards and the Capitals in D.C. As a matter of fact, the renovation has already begun on the Capital One Arena, so that's great. But how do you see both of those investments? So you shared the vision for the RFK site, and how do you see both of those investments sort of playing a role in the economy of the district?
It's important. Well, number one, we think now is the time to double down on those things that are working for us. And I think what we try to keep at the forefront in our discussions, even about monumental sports staying in the district, the Wizards, the Capitals, and the Mystics, it was important to show how great they were doing in downtown. And I think a lot of people didn't realize that they were one of the most successful venues in both leagues in terms of how many people came there, how much money they spent there. When I say most successful, one day it will translate into the most winning teams as well.
We're winning.
But they did very well there. People like it there. And the number of concerts and from every genre imaginable. And even after the pandemic, the number of shows that come to the Cat One Arena, that just exploded. So that business, monumental sports, is a very important business for the district. And sports itself is kind of a winning combination for us. Nats Park has overperformed, where we will pay off the bonds that were used to construct that $600 million public stadium early. Entertainment, we kind of put sports and entertainment together, and we look at what the Wharf is doing for the district is hugely important. The DC United Stadium, Audi Field, the practice field at Congress Heights have all been investments that we have made in sports that have paid off for the residents of the district. So when we make, and there's a lot made of the upfront investments, and 10, 15, 20 years down the road, we can see how they really pay off. All of the benefits from our economic development projects support all 8 wards of the district. And so when we're able to turn unproductive land into jobs, into restaurants, into residential units where DC residents live and pay taxes, that helps us support the whole city.
And we've definitely seen the vibrancy of those neighborhoods around Nats Park and the Wharf, so we know that what can happen at RFK.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. So there's been a lot of federal job cuts. We're expecting that there's going to be some vacant buildings and space in the district. Do you foresee any adaptive use or the district playing a role in any of the adaptive reuse of any of those buildings?
Yeah, this is something that we think about all the time, in fact. Now, put me in the category of people who think that the federal government has to slow down its strategy, okay? It's not working for the American people. It just isn't. Every day I hear more about how this agency or that cannot complete its mission. So I think all of us need to be thinking about, the next iteration for some of these buildings. But we always need to keep in the back of our mind, maybe it's this year, maybe it's next year, maybe it's 4 years from now, that the federal government is going to have to be able to house and deploy the federal workforce in a different way. Now, it could be that this is just a precursor for the impacts of AI on work. It could be. And I think we all need to be thinking about that as well. So Nina has been working in a pretty focused way on the Southwest properties. I don't have to tell you all, you do this business, that some of those properties are in really bad shape, and the federal government is going to have to figure out a way to make them attractive for reuse. And so they have to have a real plan to do that. We focused on a few buildings that we think would be interesting to help vision around, and we're really focused on the Southwest area.
That's great, and I think there's an opportunity to, we were focused, or your administration was focused during the pandemic on the vacant buildings, so this is sort of in tandem with that as well, as offices were vacant downtown.
Yes.
Yes. So you've talked about throughout your administration and even your time on the council on working really hard to move projects around that have been stuck. Skyland in Ward 7, McMillan in Ward 5, Walter Reed in Ward 4. So, what would you say have been the key factors to advancing those projects?
I think, that's an interesting way to put it. What are the key factors? Well, I would say leadership, but that wouldn't.
It's a real thing.
It's on the top of our agenda. Let me put it that. So that's the wrong word. We make it a priority. And not just for kicks and giggles, but because like I said, when that land is vacant, it is not serving the existing community, and it's not allowing us to generate the activity that people in the district want. In some ways, all of the projects that you described have a citywide appeal, but they're in neighborhoods, and communities have pushed hard for them. There's a community vision for each of them, and the community is really demanding the amenities that those places serve. I'll give you an example. I live near Walter Reed, and I've probably been involved in the discussion of the transformation of Walter Reed since 2004. So a long time coming, and the community wanted a grocery store. And I remember going down to Texas to meet with Whole Foods and having, I'm forgetting the president's name, Walter Robb, I think, when he was at Whole Foods, and touring them around the city to look at various sites. And Walter Reed was one, and they made a commitment to Walter Reed to get there. We were very focused, as you mentioned, on McMillan, which had been kicked down the road lots of times. There's a lot of community debate. And in some ways, McMillan inspired one of our budget subtitles related to development review and making sure that affected parties get the great weight they deserve, and people who are not as impacted can't gum up the process or extort the parties involved. And so that's going to be important to advance. At one point, I had a figure of what it was costing us for some of our development projects to be held up in development review in terms of the number of years that affordable housing units were delayed and the amount of tax dollars that were delayed because of these processes. So they're not without cost, both to the surrounding community, but also to the district.
So we're in a room full of developers and business people and community stakeholders. How would you want them to partner with you and the administration in advancing the growth agenda?
Well, I would want them to talk to their council members. I know a lot of people here talk to members of the council, see them out in community. They're a part of business organizations that I understand that the DC Chamber is down at City Hall right now pushing for the growth agenda. And it's starting, I think it's working. I have to say that we have been very aggressive in the policy proposals that we included in the budget. And we need people to say, it's not just the mayor, we need this. This is going to help us. I think when you are a policy maker and you're down at City Hall, what the business community is observing is always not front and center in your mind. And when somebody who is truly impacted can share their experiences with the council, I think it changes decisions. I'll give you one example. If you are recruiting restaurants in the district, we want you to be able to say that you're on a level playing field with your properties in Maryland and Virginia. And right now, I'm not sure we can say that. And it is important that this Initiative 82, if you're not familiar with it, we'll share some information with you. But it has impacted tip wages in the district. And as a result, our restaurants are telling us they're suffering. Some of them are closing. There are other issues we know that are impacting restaurants, but this one is unique to us, and we have to change it. And everybody told me, and this is going to be too hard. It was passed by the voters. Don't do it, Mayor. Don't put it in. It won't pass. And that may be the case, but I have to advance what I think is right for our restaurants. And this Tuesday, the council passed on an emergency, an 8-4 vote, the first step in getting there. They put a pause on 82, which stopped the wage from going up on July 1st, while they consider my proposal for a complete repeal. So I know that when the members hear the experience of workers and restaurants, it makes a difference. If they hear the experience of people who are involved in financing affordable housing and delivering affordable housing, the difference between 2 years ago and now, or 5 years ago and now, they have to listen. So don't underestimate your voice. And it's different than the association's voice that you may belong to. When they hear from an employer, when they hear from a worker, and when they hear how you feel about doing business in the district this year and the next 4 or 5 years, your perspective is important. The last thing I would say about that is don't let them off the hook, okay? Because I think and I can say this because I was on the council for 8 years, so I know what it's like when you're a legislator. Sometimes the default almost is to split the baby, right? So I know that I have to do something hard. Maybe I'll do a little bit over here to make this one a little less mad, and I'll do a little bit something over here that makes this one a little bit less mad, and I'll go right down the middle. But what I end up with is no solution. So I think if I would encourage you to say to the policymakers, like, you got to be bold on this. Don't pick a solution that doesn't fix the problem.
Yeah, So we're almost at time. Any last words for us, Mayor Bowser, as we wrap up this morning?
I just want to say thank you. Thank you for sticking with the district and having big ideas about the district. And I think the people in this room have the solutions. Yeah. And so don't underestimate that. I would say you asked me about reuse of some of these buildings, some of the federal buildings, how we're going to get around that. We're looking for big ideas about that. I wouldn't say we have all of the solutions. But just think about a city that was built on LaFont's plan with wide avenues, low buildings, and majestic buildings. That's our city. It's a beautiful city, a clean city, a safe city. But what do you do with a building that was built for federal workers on LaFont's plan? What do you do with it? And I don't think the GSA has the answer. I don't think DOJ had the answer. And so we need to know, what are we going to do with it in the short term and in the long term, if it's not going to be used for federal workers. So I think I would encourage everybody who's thinking big about how we're going to translate those buildings that produce revenue for the district, attract visitors, workers, you name it, and respects the majesty of our city.
Great points. And I know there are a lot of creative people in the room that will come up with those great ideas and work with you and your team to execute. We want to thank you so much, Mayor Bowser, for being here this morning, sharing the excitement around the district.
Thank you.
And
thank you.
We appreciate it.